today to have a number of state senators who work for the people of the state of New York, doing the things that are so necessary to keep us safe, to try to make the state a little bit more affordable, and do the things that are so necessary to the operation of government, particularly on the local level. Our state senators are our first line of defense to ensure that our voices are being heard in Albany. It's a little warm, it's cold today, but I know it's even colder in Albany. I was there last week. I want to indicate that we're also joined by a number of people. We're joined by our county clerk, Vinnie Pulio, video. And of course, our district attorney, Ray Tierney, who has done such a tremendous job. Today, we're going to talk about a number of things. Unfortunately, I won't be doing most of it. Just a brief introduction. But we're also going to talk about the PROTECT Act, which is very, very important. And I'll leave it to the DA to go into some detail. But we want to make sure that unsafe people are not released. We understand bail is difficult for some people of limited means, but that should not be the test. The test should be how dangerous a person is to be released. And I'll let the DAs expand a little bit. But I want to welcome our senators. They are our partners. They are the people. I mean, government is particularly these days, is not easy. And what you need partners. I work very closely with our 10 town supervisors. We're a county of 1.5 million people, and it's important as county executive to work with our state representatives to make sure our voices are heard in Albany, and with our congressional delegation to make sure our voices are heard in Washington. Because together, we have a joint responsibility to the residents and voters of this county and all the counties, the 62 in the state of New York, to do right by them. And these are the ladies and gentlemen behind me who make sure that happens. Every day, they get up and they're our advocates. They're our voice. They're the ones that carry our message, a message of common sense government, making things safe and affordable, but common sense things, because there's some things that come out of Albany, and I'll leave it to these wonderful people to talk about that you kind of shake your head and say, my God, what was the majority thinking when they adopted this? But that's just me, and maybe not everyone thinks the same way. But I have a very strong feeling that the people behind me are common sense, practical people that really want government to work for their constituents. And with that, I have the pleasure of introducing Senator Pam Hellman. Senator.
Thank you, County Executive Romaine, and thank you for hosting us this morning. I truly appreciate it. I also would like to thank you, DA Tierney and County Clerk Pulio, for your leadership and for all of your hard work and efforts to keep our community safe. As the chair of the Senate Republican Conference, I truly appreciate the opportunity to be here with so many members of our conference. Leader Ort, the senators behind me, and our entire conference have been absolutely relentless in our pursuit of creating a safer and more affordable state for everyone. This includes passing the PROTECT Act to fix the broken bail laws that allow the dangerous repeat offenders to be issued an appearance ticket and released back into our neighborhoods. It's got to stop. I have so much praise and respect for members of law enforcement. Every single day, they do go out and they do their jobs, and they do an amazing job. They bring in those who commit these serious crimes, knowing that there's a good chance because of our bail laws, they're going to be issued an appearance ticket and released. We see this happening over and over and over again. I want to take a moment and talk about a young mother from my area. Abigail Perez. She was a mother to 3 young children. Her kids were 11, 8, and 6 months old when Abby was brutally stabbed to death. Just weeks prior to her brutal murder, the person who was charged with murdering her was arrested. He was charged with assault, obstruction of breathing, and larceny. And guess what? After that first arrest for attempting to choke Abby to death, guess what happened? He was released, pending trial. So today, this holiday season, Abby's gone, her children don't have a mother. That should have never, ever, ever happened. I blame New York's bail laws for contributing to Abby's death and the death of so many others. According to the National Conference of State Legislators, New York is the only state in our entire nation that does not allow courts to consider public safety when making these pretrial decisions. The PROTECT Act, my bill, would put our state in line with the 40 other states in this country. Our goal is preventative, to stop the next tragedy before it happens. This is a bill that protects the public, respects due process, and supports the officers who are tasked with keeping us safe. Under the PROTECT Act, judges would be required to complete a standardized assessment to make informed decisions on whether or not an individual who's charged with a Class A or a felony is a danger and should be held pretrial. Something I'm really proud of, and this doesn't often happen in Albany, but the drafting of the PROTECT Act was a team effort. My office worked very closely with the Monroe County Sheriff's Office, Sheriff Todd Baxter, and a bipartisan group of individuals, religious leaders, not-for-profit leaders, business owners, and elected officials at every single level. We listened carefully to the feedback we got, and we made several adjustments, including many critical safeguards. And I just want to share those quickly with you. The first safeguard is that judges must make pretrial custody determinations based on risk, not on a person's wealth and their ability to pay bail, which is something that the county exec pointed out was important to do. Second, every pretrial custody decision must be made within 48 hours, and that was intentional to ensure that no one is held without timely judicial review. Third, the mandatory standardized assessment will be developed by the professionals at DCJS, the Department of Criminal Justice, to mitigate any bias, racial or otherwise. And fourth, the PROTECT Act supports mental health interventions. If I had to sum up the PROTECT Act in one word, it would be common sense. This is a common sense bill that will decrease the number of victimizations by repeat offenders. That's something that people across this state are begging for. They're saying to lawmakers, our system, our bail laws are broken. Why aren't you fixing them? This is our fourth in a statewide series of press conferences. Everywhere we have visited, Western New York, the Finger Lakes, Central New York, and now here in Long Island, we have received such strong, incredible support from numerous groups and individuals. And now it's up to the governor and the legislature to take action. So if you're wondering what's next, I encourage everyone who supports the PROTECT Act to sign my online petition at helming.nysenate.gov. And just as importantly is reach out, email the governor's office, and let her know that you want the PROTECT Act included as a budget priority. I want to thank everyone again for being here today, and at this time, it is truly my pleasure and my honor to introduce an amazing district attorney, Ray Tierney.
Good morning, and I want to thank everyone for coming. I especially want to thank Senator Helming for hosting this event to highlight such important legislation. As many of us standing here forecasted it all along, bail reform has failed. That much is very clear. It is a failed experiment that needs to change. Every day, we hear another story of a violent criminal being mandatory released, only to immediately go out and reoffend and harm someone else. This is not a coincidence. This is the direct result of prosecutors and judges' inability due to bail reform to use their discretion to hold someone in when they present a danger to our community. As the district attorney, it is my responsibility, my most important responsibility, to keep the citizens of Suffolk County safe. My ability to do so is severely hampered when my assistants cannot go into court and argue that a clearly dangerous person is in fact dangerous. And having said that, it sounds funny, and as Senator Helming says, that should just be common sense. The number one issue and the number one factor that we care about as prosecutors when we arraign a defendant is this person dangerous? If this person gets out, will he or she harm another one of our citizens? That's what we care about, yet we cannot make arguments to highlight the dangerousness of these individuals. So the PROTECT Act would be an important tool to rectify this broken system. Right now, as Senator Helming has said, New York State is the only state in the union that does not allow its prosecutors to argue dangerousness. I was a federal prosecutor for many years. In the federal system, you could argue dangerousness. Again, it's just common sense. That means, under our system, a court must release a defendant who clearly presents a safety risk, no matter what. This must change. I'll give you a really clear example of what we're all talking about. Earlier, there was a case in Suffolk County known as the body parts case. And the facts and circumstances of this case are very clear. What happened was we had three couples came from outside of Suffolk County. They were staying in Suffolk County for a short period of time. They went inside a house, right? The three couples go inside a house. No one knows what happens inside the house. Two couples come out. The third couple is dead. They come out in pieces. The two couples then proceed to drive around our beautiful town of Babylon and lob the body parts in the woods, in our parks, where they're soon discovered. Our Suffolk County police are dispatched. They do a fantastic job, and they're investigating this case. What do they have to look at? They're looking at video. They're looking at phone. They're looking at phone cell site location data, and they're able to very quickly, through great police work, determine who those four individuals were who disposed of those body parts. They don't know what happened inside the house. That's going to take time, but they can arrest the four individuals with regard to disposing those bodies. So that's exactly what they do. Now, clearly, these individuals, these four individuals who were arrested, they're dangerous, right? So what do we do when we go into court? We do nothing. We can't do anything. They get released. And what happens? Everyone is outraged. How could this happen? Well, it happened because prosecutors' hands are tied, and even in quite obvious situations where the defendants pose a potential risk to the community, we can't argue that risk. So that needs to change, obviously. So that's what this bill is about. Now, what I want to talk about real briefly is what this bill is not about. This bill is not about holding non-violent offenders in jail. We're not interested in that. This bill does not mandate detention. We have to, as the senator said, we have to prove that. As we do, that's what prosecutors are always required to do. We are required to prove that, and that's a burden that we welcome. It's not about judicial discretion, letting judges, it is about judicial discretion and letting the judges consider what is always the elephant in the room when you're talking about bail. That is dangerousness. That's what we care about, dangerousness. It is not about a defendant's ability to pay cash. If we are keeping indigent people in jail as prosecutors, hold us responsible. Hold me, hold my office responsible if that's what we're doing. But don't allow us to argue dangerousness. That's the most important thing. If we're holding people in bail because of they can't afford to pay, well then hold us responsible. But allow us to argue dangerousness. Victims and witnesses deserve assurance when they are victimized, when they come forward and participate in this process, that they are going to be properly protected. They don't want to hear that this person is getting out and there's nothing we can do about it. When a defendant who is accused of a serious and dangerous crime is immediately released, victims and witnesses feel unsafe in participating in the criminal justice process. Again, that's just common sense. This bill will help to restore confidence in that our justice system is commonsensical and it's working to keep people safe. That's what a criminal justice system should do. It should be fair, and it should keep people safe, and this bill ensures that. We need to roll back the serious consequences of the ill-advised bail reform law and allow judges the ability to keep violent and repeat offenders off of our streets at the earliest available time, and that is at the initial arraignment. I urge the public to contact your local state legislators, the governor's office, and tell them to pass the PROTECT Act. Thank you very much. And with that, I'll call upon our county clerk, Vin Pulio.
Good morning. Senator Hellman, I want to thank you, and I want to thank all of the senators that have signed on to this bill, to a common sense law back to where it was back in the beginning, to give our DA and all law enforcement the tools to be able to prove that this person is a menace to our community. Our law-abiding citizens deserve the right to be protected when it comes to crime, and give the judges the tools to be able to keep these people incarcerated until Judgment Day. So with that, thank you for the opportunity to speak, and Senator Dean Murray is up next.
Thank you, Vinny. I want to thank Senator Helming and all of my colleagues, our county executive, our district attorney, everyone here showing support for the bill. Now, you've heard the reasons why this is important, obviously, to protect New Yorkers, but I want to touch on a different angle. We talk about unintended consequences a lot of times with different bills. Well, there's a consequence I want to talk about that is very much intended. Earlier last month, I guess it was, myself and several colleagues held a crime victims roundtable discussion. District Attorney Ray Tierney participated in that and stayed the entire time because what we needed to do was we needed to listen to the victims of crime, something we don't do in New York. And it's quite obvious when we introduce bills like cashless bail and raise the age and less is more. Never does it seem like the victims are thought of when these bills are introduced. Well, I'm going to tell you real quickly about one particular crime victim, a single mom with an 8-year-old son. She's an emergency room nurse. She's just gotten home. It was dark. She pulls up to the house, and as she goes to go in the house, she sees the front doors ajar, one of the windows, the screen is bent and pulled out. Something's wrong, obviously. They don't go in the house. She checks her Ring phone camera. And sure enough, 5 minutes before they pulled up, there's a man breaking into their home. Now her son is petrified. Just as she's pulling out the phone to call the police pull up. And that's because this guy was trying to break in multiple homes in the neighborhood, so someone else had called. Well, they end up catching him. And of course, he got a desk appearance ticket and was right back out on the street. Well, this single mom did a little research and found that this wasn't the first time for this guy. He'd been arrested 14 times. He'd done several stints upstate, one a 3-year term, and one of the charges was kidnapping. So this is a dangerous guy. Yet he was released again and again and again. That little boy cannot sleep in his bed at night. He's petrified. Had the PROTECT Act been passed and been law, that would have never happened. And that little boy would sleep soundly in his bed every night, feeling safe and sound. Until this is passed, No one in New York is safe and sound because that revolving door keeps happening. We arrest them, the police do their job, and then right back out on the street to commit more crimes. And every time a crime is committed, that's one more crime victim that shouldn't have been a victim. We have to keep that in mind. So again, I thank my colleagues, I thank Senator Helming, and I urge everyone, get a hold of your state lawmakers, get a hold of the governor, tell them we need to pass the PROTECT Act to protect New York. Thank you.
Again, I want to thank everyone for being here. Hopefully today you have heard the reasons why we really need to put the pressure on and pass the PROTECT Act. Senator Murray talked about unintended consequences. One that doesn't come up all that frequently because we're talking about saving lives, but is the connection between crime and affordability. Every time there are these break-ins, every time businesses experience some sort of crime at the hands of repeat offenders or others, it drives up costs, whether it's insurance costs, whether it's the cost of consumer goods, it drives up costs. So it's incredibly frustrating to me when I hear our governor speak about how we need to do more or how we are doing better protecting people in the state of New York, and when she talks about affordability. One of the easiest things she can do to help address affordability and safety is pass the PROTECT Act.